Welcome to another episode of the brand called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished professional from the US, Mr. Dennis Berry. Dennis, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, my friend. How are you doing today?
Thank you. All good. Dennis is a certified business development and a life mastery coach. So, Dennis, let me start by asking you, tell me about your journey into the realm of business development and life mastery as a coach.
Oh, yeah, it's been a long journey. We have a short show, so I'm going to condense the story as much as possible.
Please.
But
Yeah.
I used to be a ski racer, so I used to live in mountain towns, and I was a chef in my younger years. I'm 51 years old, and I was kind of a wild child, you might call me. I was a bit of a
Uh-huh.
party guy, the drugs, alcohol, the girls, that
Amazing.
type of life, and
Mm.
but I got those kinds of results that I wasn't getting very far in life. So
Mm.
to cut that story very short, I've been sober for 20 years
Mhm.
from drugs and alcohol.
Mm.
And the one of the early things I learned 20 years ago was that being sober from drugs and alcohol, it's not a not drinking contest.
Mm.
It's about growing up and being an adult and being mature and taking care of your responsibilities, looking the world in the eye. And it was a long journey from there to who I am today.
Mm.
And because I almost died thousands of times and I just
Wow.
didn't understand life.
Mm.
And uh, it, I had to learn a lot of things. And the reason most people fail in sobriety and recovery in their life is because uh, we have a saying in the world of recovery, you only have to change one thing, and
Mm.
that's everything.
Amazing.
Because the way I was living wasn't working. It was actually killing me. So,
Mm.
to cut this story even shorter, I started a few businesses. I had a sales background. After I left the restaurant industry, I got into sales. I worked for a Cisco Food Service, which is a huge food distribution company.
Right.
And that was where I started my business journey about 25 years ago. I learned about a lot about business, sales, marketing, and that set me off on my journey. And after I got sober, I started a couple businesses, which failed because I didn't know how to run a business.
Mm.
And uh, but then I did start one. I had a couple that were failing. I was racking up credit card debt, and I was just trying to like stay afloat. I had a mortgage I couldn't afford, a car I couldn't afford, and so I started selling coins on eBay, and that business took off. And within a year, I was selling $3 million a year
Wow.
in coins, and I became a numismatist, which is a coin
Mm.
scientist, coin
Mm.
collector,
Mm.
and um, that experience went on for about 5 6 years. I learned so much, and then I exited out of that business. But one thing I realized was because I was selling most of my coins on eBay, and I didn't know marketing. I started my own
Yeah.
company. I separated from eBay, and but I didn't know marketing because on eBay there's 100 million people. You don't need to know marketing;
Yeah.
they do the
Yeah.
marketing.
Yeah.
So what I did was I worked for a couple of marketing companies because I needed to fill in the missing piece of my business mind.
Mhm.
And so now I did that. And since then, I have been helping others optimize and monetize their dreams.
Mm. How wonderful.
There's a lot of people on LinkedIn that have tens or even hundreds of thousands of followers that don't know how to monetize any
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
And so it's more than just like putting up a post and getting lots of likes on your post. You want to create a path to sales that creates revenue
Mm.
and grow your business.
Amazing. What an amazing story. Thank you for sharing this. So, Dennis, let's talk now about what you're doing now as a certified business development and life mastery coach. How do you define business development and life mastery in today's world?
Great question. I think a lot of it piggybacks on emotional intelligence.
Right.
And there's the three big categories of our life are finance, romance, and health, right? Those are the ones that affect us all. And if you look at any real good marketing campaigns, they all touch on one or even all three of those parts of life. And what I find is, and I'm sure you've had this experience too, that it's really hard to be 100% in all three of those at any one given time. You know, we might have lots of money, but we fall short in our relationships, or maybe we have health problems. We sacrifice our health or our relationships to make money, which is the case with a lot of people we know in the professional world. And so because of my background in addiction recovery, I also did a lot of addiction recovery coaching. And I was able to help a lot of people change their lives from alcoholism and drug dependency. I worked with a lot of codependent, a lot with couples and codependency and teens. And what I learned is that the reason most people don't become successful, especially nowadays, is lack of focus. And especially now with all of our notifications and devices, we always have three things running at the same time. And the example I like to use is New Year's resolutions. Every New Year's, it's like, oh, I'm going to lose 30 pounds and write a book and start a business and quit drinking and fix my relationship. And a week later, we're overwhelmed. So we eat chocolate cake and get drunk. And next year, it's the same 5 New Year's resolutions. And the reason is because every one of those things is a huge goal. And it's impossible to do 5 huge goals at the same time. So we need to get laser focused on one at a time. And it's called the one thing at a time. And we work on one thing, and that is life mastery and business development. It's like, you know, every day, I was just going over this. I run a mastermind group, and in the group yesterday, we were talking about this. And as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, we always have a lot of things to do. And we can't put all of those things on our calendar. Only specific time-sensitive things go on our calendar. We can have those to-do lists on the side, but then when we have free space, we take one and put it in our calendar. And we do one thing at a time. And then all of a sudden, things start getting done. As opposed to if you have 30 things, we get overwhelmed and we don't do any of them. And that's why we end up getting drunk or going to eat fast food in the middle of the day when we're not hungry, because we're overwhelmed. Whereas what I do is I help my clients get laser focused on one thing at a time and get that done. And then at the end of the week, we have 10 things done because we were doing one at a time versus 0 of the 30 things we were trying to get done. And so that's what I do from the emotional side. And from the business development side, it's like I said earlier, it's about optimizing and monetizing your dreams and turning that into a sustainable, thriving business.
Well said. Great response. Thank you. My next question is that how does business development and life mastery coaching vary across different cultures? Because you live in one of the most culturally diverse countries in the world, which is America.
That's very true. Yes. Especially nowadays, it's so funny when we looked at our over the last decades or even 100 years or more of how segmented everything was. Everything was very siloed and segmented. And it was very, especially in the United States, it was very white. Everything was always done this way, the way that that culture was done. But we missed out on so many opportunities with through diversity and adversity. And I love the way the world is expanding their minds right now, and the awareness that's coming through that is because like my mastermind group, for instance. I was talking to people before it started, and a couple of them didn't want to join because they wanted it to be men only. And I think that's a huge mistake because we're missing out on such great other perspectives, not only from women, but from every culture around the world.
Right.
Every culture has successful individuals, businesses, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's important to bring all that knowledge together, which is the goal of a mastermind group, is to have peer support with different perspectives that can help our businesses thrive. Because alone, we only have access to our own knowledge, to our own education, our own experiences. So we can only take our businesses so far. Yet, if we have other ideas, other information coming from other successful people in different cultures, different societies, different sexes, different races, whatever, we have a much better chance of becoming infinitely more successful, 100 times more successful.
Absolutely. Well said. Have you noticed any universal challenges or aspirations among your clients from different backgrounds?
So, do you mean the people that are struggling with the same problem,
Yes.
but from different backgrounds? I think there's a couple. The number one thing that I found is that people are very good at their craft, but they don't understand that running a business is different from doing your craft. And I think it's important to know that. Like I work with some very talented lawyers and good doctors, digital marketing professionals, electricians. I've worked with so many different people, but there's a difference between doing your craft and running a business. And the truth is, like, when you start a business, we need to do everything. We need to be the accountant, the sales manager, the marketing person. We need to answer the phones and manage employees and all that stuff. And then eventually we could start farming some of that, delegating some of those responsibilities out. But people don't realize that when you start a business, you're only doing your craft about 30% of the time. So if you're an electrician, you're only doing electrical work for about 30% of the time. The rest of the time, you're doing that other administrative work, sales work, other things. And that's why a lot of businesses fail, is because they don't have that background, that educational background. Now, if you're young enough and have some resources, you kind of get your way through it and figure things out. But in middle age, it's harder. And that's why it's better to hire a professional, somebody like me, coaches me or you, or somebody who knows how a business actually works. And so I think that's the biggest problem that I see. The other one that I see is trying to just wing it without a plan. Just say, let's try this, let's try that, instead of having a well-defined plan. Now, plans are only there to guide us. Like, plans are like, okay, let's do this, and this. Things rarely go exactly as planned, so we need to be able to pivot. But not having a plan at all is a bad idea.
Well said. Next question is that how can one prepare to be more adaptive in both business and personal life in the coming years?
Yeah, I would say I'm always asked on radio shows all the time. It's, what's the one piece of advice that you would give somebody who's starting out? And it's this, is to never lose your sense of wonder. Never stop learning. It's like what my early business mentor taught me, when we think we know the rules change. And if we're not constantly learning, people, the biggest buzzword in the world today, there's two, AI and ChatGPT. Those are the two biggest things. And everybody's like, AI are going to replace humans. That's not true. People who learn how to use AI are going to replace people who don't learn how to use AI. So that's just an example to show you that if we stop learning, we start dying inside, and we're not going to be able to thrive. So I say that the number one thing is to continue to learn constantly as much as possible. And the best way to do that is to have a coach, a mentor, or an accountability partner. All of the most successful people in the world have coaches, mentors, and accountability partners. They have teams of them. Like, all these Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, like whatever, they don't just throw products and services out there. They have meetings that these products and services are rejected, they're tried and tested and failed and tried again before they reach market. And the best way to grow is to continue to learn, continue to try, and surround yourself with success.
Wonderful. And Dennis, how do you personalize your coaching approach for different clients? Because each client is different.
Every client is very different, has the different goals, needs, aspirations. However, my approach is there are certain universal principles that still apply, whether it's AI, whether AI is here or not. There's certain business principles that still apply. And I stick to a lot of the fundamental business principles because they're universal truths. And but of course, we incorporate modern day techniques. And I'm very focused on the social aspect because well, I'm an influencer on LinkedIn. And so for me, LinkedIn has been very helpful, but also now we're expanding into different networks with Facebook, Instagram, and using different channels. But our approach is different because it's very hands-on. It's very I have personal interest in everybody's success. And I believe in that there's no shortcuts. A lot of people, we focus on building a solid foundation. A lot of people, throw paid ads at whatever product or service or business you're trying to build. The problem with that is that you can do that. You could throw $100,000 a month on paid ads, hoping to make. A lot of people do that, hoping to make $100,001, and that's a profit. But when the ads stop, so do the phone calls.
Correct.
So unless you have a foundational business in place, including a social presence, a personal brand that speaks to who you are, and creating multiple streams of income around that, then you're going to struggle to really get far. So building relationships is what I focus on, and it's what I have my clients focus on, building foundational trust.
Well said. And my last question for you, Dennis, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your own incredible journey and all the work that you're doing with so many different clients, what would you say are 3 actionable steps our listeners can take away today when it comes to business development and achieving life mastery?
I would say number 1 is to make health a priority. This is one that I stress. I can't stress anymore. It's like people think, I need to make money. I need to do all these things, but we don't have any problems. We think we have all these problems, but the truth is we have no problems until we have a health problem. Now we have a real problem, because if you're healthy, you can make more money. You can find a new love or heal your broken relationship. You could travel. You can try new things. So, and health isn't just physical; it's mental health too, which is why I have that life mastery background. So mental and physical health are primary focus. The next is to focus on, like I just said earlier, your personal brand. Your reputation is everything. Go back, because there's always new social media networks. There's I was on Facebook for a while. I was on Instagram. I do LinkedIn. I do TikTok. All these things. Go back and clean up your digital footprint. We never know when we said something that's gonna trigger something that's not good. So I would say to keep your brand on point to who you actually are, which is my third thing, is to be honest and to build trust with your audience. Build that audience every day, build solid relationships, and stay true to who you are. When we see somebody successful, we're like, wow, that's so cool that he or she is doing that, and I'm going to do that too. And we try to be them. But the problem is we're not them. We're us. And so we can only be us and speak our truth. Case in point, I was trying to become one of the influencers on LinkedIn, and he's all business, and he has like a black dark picture and a very forceful, and he's a very big influencer who's taught a lot of people about business. And so I try to take on a similar persona so I can have that forceful, because I have a very strong business background myself. But the problem was I built my audience and my reputation on being the inspirational, motivational guy who wrote a book to motivate people to change their lives through inspiration and motivation. And I'm not the serious guy. You know, I get some of my posts get like 20,000, 25,000 engagements on them. And I built that audience around being motivational and inspiring, not being, you know, very serious about business. So I can talk about, you know, getting into flow state, taking care of your health and your mental well-being and all this type of stuff and get lots of engagement. But as soon as I talk about writing a solid business plan or doing something very business related, it's crickets. And it's because that's not my genuine personality.
Well said.
So my audience expects that type of stuff from me. So whoever you are, whether you're dark, light, serious, if you like to tell jokes or whatever it is, be that person on social media too.
Amazing. And on that note, and your 3 amazing lessons, make mental and physical health your priority. That you said was the first one. Second, you said reputation or your personal brand is everything. And I love what you said was go back, check your digital footprint and clean it up. And the third one you said was be honest and build trust. Thank you, Dennis, for speaking to me about your own journey, about so many different aspects of business development and life mastery. Thank you again and good luck.
Thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.